What matters is that you're exposing your body to a stimulus that's going to promote your health in the long run. It's not about what you did in the workout. So I don't want you to feel like, oh yeah, modifications are inferior. Well, no. Well, because number one, they're not modifications. Remember, we're calling them options. And we're calling them body fitting options. And the better that you fit the exercise to your body, the better health promoting benefits you're going to get.
Welcome to the Exercise is Health podcast, where we're talking about exercise, health, and the interconnectedness of the two. We are your hosts, Charlie
and Julie,
and we will be coming to you every single week from our studio, Muscle Activation Schaumburg. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Exercise is Health podcast. We are your hosts, Charlie
and Julie,
and we're coming to you from our studio, Muscle Activation Schaumburg in Schaumburg, Illinois. Now, at Muscle Activation Schaumburg, we believe your health is your most valuable asset. Your health is one of the biggest influencers of the quality and quantity of time that you have. And while there are many aspects of health, our expertise is exercise. Exercise has been proven time and again to not only improve your health, but also increase your longevity and improve your quality of life. And if you are looking for a video-guided way to work out from the comfort of your own home, in 20 minutes or less using minimal equipment, then you need to check out the MAS at-home workout program. This 75-day video-guided program will bring you through over 100 workouts, including resistance training, cardio, recovery workouts, and mobility workshops. So if this sounds like something that you're wanting because, you don't want to get to the gym, but you still want guidance from, qualified personal trainers, like super qualified personal trainers, me and Julie.
Charlie and Julie Cates.
If you're looking for that, then you need to go to homeworkout.matschaumburg.com to learn more and download your copy today. Now, today we are talking about an exercise-related topic. This is a super relevant exercise-related topic, and it's this idea of modifications, okay? Modifications. You may have heard about them. You may feel like you employ them, but what are they? And why do you need to be doing them? Because there's kind of a stigma around modifications. And we want to say, you know what? Honestly, if you're not modifying your workouts, you need to be, and your body's going to be far better off. Your results are going to be far better off, and your health is going to be far better off once you understand how to modify your workouts.
Now, this topic spurred from a question that we had come up in our One Workout Away challenge that we are in the middle of right now. And the One Workout Away challenge is a 28-day challenge where you're in a private Facebook group. We provide not only workouts. I think a lot of people think workout challenges are all about working out, but yes, there is a component of like the doing, but there's also a huge component to this workout challenge about educating and learning, because if you can understand why you're doing something, why you're not doing something else, and understand the ins and outs, people are more apt to do it because they have a level of understanding. And so one of the things we do is a Q&A Friday, and this question came up on a Q&A Friday. By the way, if you're interested in doing a 28-day challenge with us, we call it the One Workout Away Challenge. We have our next challenge coming up on October 25th. That's a Sunday. You have to sign up before that date, because once the date comes around, sign-ups get chopped off, and it's only $27. So again, it'll be like workouts, it'll be education, and you can sign up by going to OWA, which stands for One Workout Away, .matschaumburg.com. So we really hope that we see you in our, really it'll be like a November challenge, but what we did is we structured this one to start at the end of October and right before Thanksgiving, because we know the holidays are crazy, but we have to get you ready for the holidays. You can't just go into the holidays unhealthy, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, okay, so let's get to this question. So last Friday we got a question, and it was like, I don't remember the exact words, but it was something like, hey, Charlie and Julie, on our live workout, you guys kept talking about modifications and how they were good, but I always had the perception that they were like the easy version, the less quality version, the less good version of an exercise. And I totally get that, because Charlie, you mentioned there is a kind of a negative stigma, or like an easy stigma, or like a rehab, or taking the easy way out stigma to the word modifications.
Yeah, well, just think about when we hear modifications. It's like, okay, if your body's perfect, you do this version. And if it's anything but perfect, here's another version for you. It's like, okay, if we're doing this shoulder exercise and it feels good, keep doing it. But if it's bugging your shoulder, if there's something wrong, if there's, if you're less than perfect, you can do this version of the exercise. And that's always the kind of the context that modifications are brought up in.
Right. And just to piggyback on that, I want to say, like, we always think like, well, because I can't do that, I'm going to do this like lesser version. But actually, the exercise is not the thing that's perfect that you're trying to get your body to fit into. Your body is actually perfect and ready to exercise. We, as consumers of exercise, you have to do it, I have to do it, Charlie has to do it, everyone has to do it. We have to figure out what exercises are perfect for us, not vice versa. For some reason, we think we need to fit our bodies to fit, these 10 exercises, and then the next time, these other 10 exercises. But actually, when we show up to a workout, it is our goal, and we need to come in with the understanding, like, my body is ready to be challenged and my body is ready to gain the health benefits of exercise. What exercises are going to work for my body, and not the other way around. Like, my body's a little flawed with that one, so I'm going to do some other version that I would prefer not to do, but I have to do it because I can't do the other version. Does that make sense?
Yeah, this is such an important topic, again, because of that negative stigma, that negative connotation that is usually surrounding the idea of modifications, but also because I think one of the most common ways of modifying exercise is to just avoid the exercise. Oh, lunges bug your knees? Okay, well, we're going to modify by not doing lunges. Oh, shoulder press bugs your shoulders? Oh, okay, well, we're going to modify by not doing shoulder press. And it's like, all right, look, there can be very legitimate reasons why you want to not do an exercise. But if you had legitimate reasons in the first place for doing the exercise to begin with, well, then maybe it's worth your time to figure out how you can make some slight tweaks to like the standard cookie cutter version of the exercise and actually fit the exercise to your body, as opposed to saying, well, what exercises does my body fit today? And that's one of the big things with doing modifications is instead of looking at it like, okay, well, here's the gold standard of this exercise. Here's the gold standard of the squat. And then here are all the modifications of the squat, which clearly aren't the gold standard, which means they are lesser versions of the squat. We can say, okay, here's one thing that we can call a squat. But here's another thing that we can call a squat. And here's another thing that we can call a squat. And each of these different squat called things, they're different. They have their different joint positions. There may be relatively similar joint motions. There might be different, force profiles or resistance profiles, like where it's hard, where it's easy associated with it. But which one of these works best for your body today? And get past the idea that like, oh, this is the gold standard and everything else isn't that, so everything else is less than it. No. It's like, where's your body at today? Let's actually exercise in a manner that's appropriate for your body, regardless if the move that you're doing right now looks like the move that's on your computer screen, looks like the move that's in the magazine. That doesn't matter. What matters is your body is being challenged appropriately for the state that it's in right now. And that will allow you to keep coming back to exercise so you can continue to exercise for the long term.
So by the end of this podcast, I want you to think about modifications as different options and different opportunities for your body. I don't want you to approach this podcast and this conversation, because I think a lot of people will. Like, they'll have an assumption of what we're about to say and what we're going to explain. And even though we're saying certain words, they're going to look for the explanation that fits what they think we're going to say. And that what you think we're going to say, a lot of people are going to be like, well, they're trainers, they got to be motivational. Like, they're probably going to say stuff like, well, at least you're doing something, and, anything is good, anything is better than nothing. It's not what we're saying at all. And so when you finish this podcast, I want you to feel that modifications, like a better word for modifications should be, as Charlie was alluding to, would be options. And there's not one that's superior or inferior to others. I hate when people label certain exercises as better or worse than others. Like, this one is the best one you could do for your butt. And it's like, okay, well, there's a lot of exercises you can do for your butt. And this one is certainly not the best because there's a lot of different ones, and certain ones have different variables. And so they just are. They're not like superior or inferior, including modifications. So when you listen to this conversation, please be looking for these ideas that exercise modifications really should be called exercise options. Or what I was starting to talk to our One Workout Away Challenge members is how it's more like body fitting exercises, like which one fits your body. Because when you think about exercise, why do we exercise? I mean, do a little virtual hand raise. Do you exercise because you actually like exercising? Now, some people do. Most people don't, I would say. And I know most people don't because most people don't exercise. Like, if you like to eat pizza, you're probably going to eat pizza every so often, or at least on some kind of regular frequency. If you like to exercise, you're probably going to exercise at least on some kind of regular basis. If you like broccoli, you're probably going to eat broccoli on some kind of regular basis. But you might also eat broccoli because you've convinced yourself that it has some kind of health properties. You might also not really like exercising, but you might exercise because you realize that it has health promoting properties. But really, when we exercise, it doesn't matter if you like it or you don't like it. We're all in it. Well, most of us are in it, especially if you're listening to this podcast. We're all in it. I won't give another interjection. To get the health benefits, right? We're not doing it. We're not all doing it because we like it. Or you might like it, but you're listening to this podcast because you want to like it, but also get health benefits. Because a lot of people like it and they actually, like, it's a chronic injury, and which is not that much fun. But when you're doing exercise, it's all about the outcome. It's all about the health promoting benefits. It's not about if you got to do squat A option or squat B option or squat C option or no squat option, but some other variation that fit your body that day. Because it doesn't matter. What matters is that the stimulus, what matters is that you're exposing your body to a stimulus that's going to promote your health in the long run. It's not about what you did in the workout. So I don't want you to feel like, oh yeah, modifications are inferior. Well, no. Well, because number one, they're not modifications. Remember, we're calling them options, and we're calling them body fitting options. And the better that you fit the exercise to your body, the better health promoting benefits you're going to get, because that will ensure that you can exercise for the long run. It can ensure that you can exercise today and tomorrow and the next day, versus like, I exercised today and I picked the wrong option. So that means I won't exercise again until next week because I'm sore and achy. I hope that made sense. But again, it's about the outcome. And so the options that you do to elicit that outcome don't matter that much.
Okay, so let's say you buy into this idea that, all right, you know what, the next time I go to the gym, yeah, maybe I should start exploring with some body-fitting options for my exercise. And I won't think of them as modifications. I'll think of them as like, okay, actually fitting my exercise to my body today. So where are some places you can start? What are some things you can do? Well, I think one option that you have is the amount of motion that you're performing. Okay. So oftentimes we think, okay, we want to go full range, our fullest range possible. Okay. We want to reach all the way up to the floor and all the way down to the ceiling with every press that we do. That's what we're going to do. All right. Our fullest range possible. And here's the thing. Sometimes that doesn't feel that good. Sometimes you get to the gym and you're like, yeah, you know what? I reach all the way up and that actually feels a little bit weird on my shoulder today. And instead of saying, yeah, I'm just not going to do this, you can start to play around with, okay, where does it feel weird on my shoulder? Does it feel weird only when I go all the way up? Like if I'm doing a shoulder press or an overhead press? Does it feel weird when I go all the way up? Does it feel weird kind of in the middle? Does it feel weird kind of at the bottom part of the motion? Where does it feel weird? Now, if it feels weird throughout the whole thing when you're moving, there's still an option for that. It's called not moving. It's called doing an isometric. And you can just kind of pick a point where you're not moving and you can just hold that position. And you can just see if that bothers your shoulders or not, all right? But from a motion perspective, you have every option from moving fully to not moving, and that includes moving through little increments of the range. Maybe you're just going to do up and down right at the very top, or maybe you're just going to go up and down right in the very middle, or maybe you're just going to do from the bottom to the middle, okay? You can play around with that, and those are different options that you have. So I think one of the easiest places to start from an exercise option standpoint is changing the amount of motion that you're doing while you're doing your exercise.
I love that tip because, well, you brought up something that I want to address, like a principle to help you choose, like when do I make my body fitting options, right? So Charlie brought up like an overhead press. So we have this preconceived idea of what an overhead press might look like. And then Charlie gave some examples. Like if it feels weird, some things you can do is change the range. And range means how far you're moving. Now, when we exercise, this is the principle. When we exercise, most of the health benefits come from us challenging muscle tissue. And so when we can feel muscles squeezing and working when we exercise, that is ideal. We know something is a little weird or off when you feel other stuff than that. Meaning when you feel something jointy or crampy or achy when you're doing it, that is not the muscles squeezing, then that's a good sign that you should start looking into some other options or some changes that you can make to the exercise. So I thought you brought up a good point with that. So here's another one. If you feel like you're doing an exercise and you feel other junk other than muscles squeezing, again, like the achiness, joints crunching, you just feel your joint, or some kind of zinging, any of that weird stuff, and it's not muscle, you can also change the plane that you are moving in. So a good example, let's just use the overhead press again. So usually when people think of overhead pressing, they think of someone standing there with their arms kind of like a goalpost position, their palms facing forward, like the same direction as their face. And then they press it above their head, and then they come back down to a goalpost type position. Some options in terms of plane, we can think of, like think of that goalpost position and then think about like your elbows coming together and out. So there's one plane that we can play with. So you could bring your elbows closer together so they're not so wide and push in that kind of a plane. Another plane that we can play with is when you think about standing and you press the dumbbells over your head, those dumbbells kind of stack right on top of your shoulders. That doesn't feel good for a lot of people. So one thing you can do is you can sit on one of those benches that are seated but not at like a perfect 90 degrees, and do like the slightest incline, and then press the dumbbells straight up, but now your body is like slightly reclined. So that might feel really good on your shoulders and way more muscle centric than the alternative. So the second way to find some options for your body would be to play with planes. And for this overhead press idea, I talked about bringing your elbows closer together, maybe not being so wide, not so kind of perpendicular with your body, I guess we could say. And then also having a slight recline with your body so that your arms almost get pressed slightly in front of your shoulders rather than right on top. Now, I want to give one more example of this planes because sometimes this one's hard to understand, especially if you're not like thinking about planes of the body all the time like Charlie and I are. One that a lot of people have seen is a squat versus like a wide squat. Now, there is many reasons why you might do like a parallel type squat like regular versus like, really wide with your knees and toes pointed out. But that's another way that you're changing the plane that your joints are moving through. And that might change how much you can focus on your muscles squeezing.
Another exercise option to explore are like the tools that you're using to challenge your body. Okay. So again, going back to the overhead press example, you might think about using dumbbells, or you could use bands or tubing, or cables, or a barbell, or a machine. What can potentially change with each of these, one is something called the resistance profile, okay, where it is challenging in the motion and where it is less challenging in the motion. And that can create a completely different exercise experience, and you can make it feel really good for your body when you know how to play around with this. But another thing that can change is actually the position that you find your body in while you're doing the overhead press motion. Okay. So using different tools is not just for the sake of using different tools. Okay. It's not just for, getting, I don't know, like going from a red band to a green band or whatever, and you look at, oh, it's a different color, so now that this is something different today. It's like, no, actually there are very kind of physics-based properties that go along with changing the different tools and how the physics interacts with your body, and how that becomes a different challenge for your body in terms of both where throughout the motion your muscles are being challenged, how much, to what degree they're being challenged, as well as what position you might find your body in while you're doing the exercises. And each of those options can take an exercise that really doesn't feel that great for you on any given particular day, and you're able to still perform the motion of an overhead press, still challenge the muscles that would be involved, but it can start to feel really good for your body.
Charlie, I think that the use of different tools is probably the one that, I don't know, when we're talking about it, I kind of think like, of course, that's the one that seems the most obvious. But it's probably the one that's the most underutilized. Reason being, and you'll get it when I say this, reason being is that most people have access to limited tools. We've had colleagues and, different, professionals that we'll refer back and forth with that have come in here and be like, wow, you guys have like a full gym in here. Like, you're a small studio. Why do you have a full gym? We're like, well, because we work with people that need options, We can't just have a blank floor and some dumbbells. It's not going to be good enough. We need options, because I don't know how many times, more times than I can count on my hands, that people come in, like new clients, consultation, I'm doing these things, it bothers me. And I'll ask, like, well, where do you work out? And they're like, well, at home. And I only have, bands. And I'm thinking in my head, wow, well, there's like 6 other ways that we could do that I bet would feel good. It's just that, and I'm not saying like you should be educated on how to use every tool that you have at your house, because you probably didn't study and spend lots of money on how to learn how to use those things like we did. But a lot of people have limited tools either at their house or they or at wherever they train, or they go to like a big gym. And what's funny is tools are one of the biggest things that are labeled as good or bad. And the biggest one that gains the bad note is the machines. And I don't know if it's because machines are expensive, so people just don't want to buy them, so they label them as bad, because then they can convince everyone that they don't need them anyways. But machines are like the easiest, best way to manipulate your tools, and even like during a rep with a machine, to make things feel good on your body. Like they have in my track record the least amount of side effects because of my ability to manipulate them. Now that does come at like, okay, yeah, I've spent, 10 years learning how to manipulate them really, really well. And, you might not have that. But what I do want to highlight is that dumbbells and machines and bands and in our home workout program and in our Learn Workout Away Challenge program, we use towels, so like in stretchable objects. And there's also those stretchy bands you get at like therapy and stuff, like those sheet looking ones. They're all good, but they're all different. And if one's not working for you, meaning you do a dumbbell overhead press, and you're like, yeah, overhead presses don't work for my body, you need to reframe that. Dumbbell overhead presses, the way that I currently do them, don't work for my body. I do believe that statement, but I don't believe that none of them work for your body. So definitely explore your tools. Don't categorize one as good and one as bad. And actually, each tool can really provide a unique opportunity and a unique challenge and health benefit and muscle benefit to your body. And I really, really encourage you to explore them. And if you only do home workouts, to go get a gym membership and go once a week or twice a week or 4 times a week, but give yourself the opportunity of that exposure, because that is like hands down the number one easiest way, especially at home, to do things. And a lot of people come and pay me to be their trainer, and that is one of the fastest and easiest things that we employ, which is, all right, well, you've never been on machines. Let's try these machines, because I'm pretty sure that they're going to feel awesome on your body. And if they don't, I'll know how to manipulate them so that they do. And if they don't, I'll use the other 20 tools we have here. So definitely explore your tools, explore your options that are available to you. If you don't have a lot of things available to you, good news, gyms are still offering memberships. You can go get one. You can also check out our home workout program, where we try to give a bunch of options. You can also go find a trainer that knows what they're doing, and they'll have lots of options for you as well.
Now, another way, we just have a couple more, but another way that we want to give you of creating exercise options for yourself is to play with the speed at which you are doing the motion, okay? And a lot of people think, okay, you're going to say move slow. You say it every single episode. Okay, yeah.
Okay, just move slow.
Just move slow, all right? but here's the thing, is there are different stages, there are different kind of phases of the motion that you're doing, and you can play with the speed at each of those stages, each of those phases. All right, what do I mean? We just keep using the overhead press as an example, so let's use that again. So you have like your bottom position, maybe where your hand's by your shoulder. Then you have the motion of the hand moving up like towards the head. Then you have your top position where your hand's overhead, and then you're lowering it down, you're lowering your hand back down towards your shoulder, okay? So there's 4 different distinct phases there. You have the bottom, you have the motion up, you have the top, and you have the motion down, okay? You can play with the time or the speed at each of those times. Maybe you want to go a little bit faster up, pause for a second, slowly down, and then, I don't know, that'd be crazy, like pause for 10 seconds at the bottom. You can play with those things, and it totally creates a different exercise experience every single time you change the speed at which you're moving. Now, you always want to make sure that you are moving with control. So that's why we say, hey, err on the side of moving slower. Move slowly, move slowly, move slowly. But when you're talking about the different options for exercise based on the tools that you're using and based on your body's tolerance for doing a certain exercise, you may decide that at certain parts of that motion, you're going to move a little bit faster. And it's a very strategic decision in order to do that. It's not just a haphazard, I'm getting fatigued and I want to get 3 more reps, so I'm going to really, throw the weight to get up there. That doesn't count. Remember, it's all about squeezing muscles. So being strategic with the speed at which you're moving is a great exercise option to employ when you're working out.
Now, the last way that you can, I almost said modify. I hope that now when I say modify, it doesn't represent something easier or lesser. And the last way you can create options for your body is to change your intention, which is changing what you think you're trying to do. Now, the first time I heard this, I was like, yeah, but I'm still doing what I'm actually doing. So how is that going to really change? But actually, there is a lot that changes, because what intention does is it changes forces. And you might not, and actually you probably won't be able to visually see it. Like if I was watching you exercise one way and then I told you to think about this certain thing, I probably wouldn't be able to see much of a difference. Maybe a little bit, and maybe I could because I've done it for a lot of years, but it's not like a huge difference in a visual sense. But what it does happen is there is a big change in what your body is experiencing and what forces are going through your body. And now forces is the whole dealio of exercise. And so when we change forces, we change intention, we change the exercise or manipulate the exercise a little bit. So the easiest way to change this is to go from I'm counting how many reps I'm doing to I'm actually thinking about squeezing my muscles, and I'm actually taking my brain and trying to engage this muscle as I work it versus just count the number of reps. That's the easiest way to change intention. When you exercise, you'll notice when you do that, you'll feel the muscle a lot more. You're probably going to move a lot slower. And also, you're probably going to be able to feel when that muscle is kind of tapped out. So you'll know when the exercise is over versus an ambiguous 10 reps. You go, oh, well, my biceps are pretty done now. Like I can't do another good rep. Or, oh, my shoulders are pretty maxed out now, so I can't do any more in an appropriate manner.
Julie, you know those froyo places that you go in and you like those places?
Yeah. Why are you asking me this?
So here's the thing. This is what I want you to think about when we're thinking about the idea of exercise modifications. Okay, you go, all right, you know those froyo places where you go in and you get like your bucket and you go to the spigot and you pick out your flavor of froyo. And which flavor do you always choose, Julie?
Chocolate.
Obviously. Okay.
Of course.
So,
first I sample them all.
You have to sample
them. Then
you end on chocolate, right? Okay. So here's the thing.
Well, surprise! I like this one again.
Right, but after you get the chocolate, then what do? You go up to the counter and you have that buffet option of
all the treats,
all the crunchy stuff, all the crunchy treats. Now, throwing on the Oreos and the Reese's and whatever else you put on, the hot fudge or whatever. I guess in some universe we could say, well, you're kind of modifying the chocolate froyo, so that's going to make it like not as good. It's like a downgraded version of the chocolate froyo because you had to modify it. Mm-hmm. Or you could say, actually, it's making it really good.
Yeah.
Actually, you've taken this kind of plain Jane cookie cutter frozen yogurt and you've just made it the bomb. Like it's really good now. All right. That's what modifications to your exercises are like. All right. You take this plain Jane cookie cutter exercise and you say, yeah, what can I do to throw some hot fudge on here? What can I do to throw in some chocolate chips or throw in some Reese's to make it so it's like from pretty good to like really good. And now this stuff is amazing. This is the stuff that I'll keep coming back for. Cause like the chocolate's good. Like I would come back for the chocolate, but you throw in all the other stuff and it's like, all right, no, I could come back tomorrow for this. This is delicious. Mm-hmm. And just like the froyo place, it doesn't cost you any extra. It doesn't cost you any extra to put on all the stuff as you go through the buffet line. It doesn't cost you any extra to do the modifications for your exercises, but it's a much more enjoyable experience. You're gonna like it a whole lot better. You're gonna get a lot more out of it, and you're gonna be like, yeah, that's something that I would definitely come back for. So when it comes to doing the modifications for your exercise, again, think of it like exercise options. All right. It's not this is a gold standard for your exercise and everything else is less than ideal and you do everything else because there's something wrong with you. No. There's the cookie cutter version of an exercise, and then there's everything else that includes the hot fudge, that includes the chocolate chips, that includes the marshmallows, everything else that makes it exactly to your body's taste on that day, and that makes it taste amazing, and that makes it so like you love doing it. All right. And that's what exercise modifications do for you. That's why you should be throwing them into your workouts, because if you're feeling achy, beat up, sore from your workouts, that's not something you want to come back to. But when you feel amazing from your workouts, now that's something worth coming back to. All right.
Plus, think of like with the froyo, I mean, you can't put like Reese's in with like the mint cookies. So you'd have to come back and re-modify the chocolate to be like minty one.
Exactly.
And then like when you want it to be like the fruity one, you can't like mix the fruity with the mint. That would taste weird.
It's so weird.
Yeah. So then you have to come back and modify the chocolate to be like the fruity chocolate one. You guys know what I'm saying. You know what? I'm right.
All right. So if you are looking for a way to exercise on your own that offers a bunch of different exercise options utilizing minimal equipment, and you can do it from the comfort of your own home, then you need to check out the MAS at-home workout program. Again, this is a 75-day video guided workout program that includes over 100 workouts, including resistance training, cardio workouts, mobility workshops, and recovery days. All right. We include exercise options every single workout along the way, so you can get that froyo type experience and make it exactly to your taste, to your preference, and to your body's needs. So go to homeworkout.matschaumburg.com and check out all the details of that program and download your copy now. And while you're online, if you wouldn't mind, head on over to iTunes and leave us a rating and review. It helps people find this information when they're looking for podcasts on exercise and when they're looking for podcasts on health. So if you found value in this conversation today, let us know by leaving us that 5-star rating and review. Well, thanks so much for tuning in. We always appreciate it. Have a fantastic week, and we'll talk with you all next week.